This is PGSMaths and welcome to the first of two tutorial videos about negative numbers. This is the first video which is about adding and subtracting with negative numbers. Do remember that we are on Facebook, PGSMaths, and on Twitter at PGSMaths. Do follow us there and post any comments you have about this video or any requests for future videos. So what is a negative number? If we look at this in the context of temperature, we know that big numbers generally tend to mean very hot. These are really high numbers and a long way from zero, which we know is cold. So the smaller a temperature gets, the smaller the number gets. The closer we get to zero, the smaller the number is. But what happens when we hit zero? If we go further down, we're going to get colder. These numbers are still going to get smaller, but they're still moving away from zero, so the distance from zero is still measured by a bigger number the further away we get. As we move down, say minus 20 is much further away than minus 10, but it still appears to be a bigger number. So the further away we get from zero, the bigger the number appears to be, and negative just implies that we have a number which is under zero. So how do we know which numbers are actually bigger than the others? If we ignored the symbols before them, it's very easy to see 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 and 9 are in numerical order. But we've got to remember that the negative symbol moves the numbers that same distance but to the opposite direction, so it moves it to lower than zero. So the bigger the number is next to a negative symbol, the smaller it actually is. We can see this very clearly if we use a number line, which is something very easy and very quick to draw if you're ever trying to solve a question like this. So if we try and place the number 1 on our number scale, find 0 and notice that each line on the number line is representing 1 mark, so the number 1 should go here. Now we know that this next line across is the number 2. We have negative 2. So what this tells us is it's going 2 marks away, but in the opposite direction to make it smaller than 0. So looking at this, we can see that negative 2 is smaller than 1. In the same way, we can place the number 3. It says it's 3 marks away, but it's negative. So that means it has to be smaller than 3 and goes 1, 2, 3 marks away. So even though 3 is a bigger number than 2, because they're negative, it just shows that 3 is further away from 0 and therefore is smaller. 5 has no negative symbol, so therefore it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers bigger than 0. Negative 7 must go further away than negative 3, which proves it's even smaller. Even though 7 would logically be bigger than 3, it is bigger, it's just bigger in the distance away from 0. But in the whole context of all numbers, negative 7 is much smaller than negative 3. In the same way, a positive 9 is a much bigger number, as it is the furthest number of all of ours away from 0. Now we've put all of our numbers on the number line, we can see in order from smallest to biggest we have negative 7, negative 3, negative 2, 1, 5 and 9. So how does this help us when we're trying to add with negative numbers? Well, if we look what happens with just positive numbers, we have 3 add 4. So we're going to start with the number 3. Now when you add a number, it gets bigger. It moves towards the right, because all our bigger numbers are towards the right. So if I add 4, we're going to jump 4 places to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, meaning that my answer to this problem is found here, which is the number 7. It doesn't matter which order we put the numbers in, it could be 4 plus 3 would do the same thing. So if we start with a negative number, a negative 2, again we'll use the number line to show what's actually happening. Negative 2 means it's 2 numbers below 0. I'm going to add 4, which means we need to move right, get bigger, 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, which gives us an answer of a positive 2. So my answer is 2. It's not 2 add 4 equals 6, because we have a negative 2. Again, if we swapped these two numbers around, we would have 4 subtract 2, which again we should know is equal to 2. Why don't you have a go at this one? Just pause the video, work it out, and then resume just to check your answer. Did you manage to get it? Let's have a look. Negative 7. Well, that means it's going to be 7 away, so that puts it 7 marks lower than 0. And adding 6 means we're going to move right 6 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, giving us an answer here, which is 1 number below 0. So our answer is negative 1. Well done if you managed to get that one. Now let's have a look at what happens when we subtract with negative numbers. The same thing's going to happen, but when we subtract, when we take away a number, we're going to make it smaller, so we're going to move left down our number scale. So we start with 3, because 3 is our beginning number, and then we're going to take away 4. So we're going to move down 4 numbers along the number line. 1, 2, 3, 4, giving us an answer here at negative 1. Now we should see that if we swapped the numbers here, it would actually change our answer. 4 take away 3 is 1. Therefore it's important that you never swap the numbers round with a subtraction. We are always starting with the first number and subtracting the second. Now, adding a negative number is exactly the same as subtracting a number on its own. We know that negative 6 means 6 marks to the left. So if we add a negative 6 to our 7, we start with 7 at the beginning, and we're going to go 6 to the left. Start with 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left, which gives us an answer of 1. So another way we can actually write this is to say that 7 take away 6 equals 1. We can ignore the add sign because the subtraction is more important in this case. The same thing can happen if we start with a negative number. We start with a negative 1, so we know that that means that's 1 number below 0. And adding a negative 2 will move it 2 spaces to the left. Move down 2, 1, 2, gives us an answer of negative 3. How else could we write that question? Pause the video, have a go. Did you get it? Negative 1 stays the same, but the add is not important in this case. So we have negative 1, take away another 2, gives us negative 3. Well done if you managed to write that correctly. Looking at our final skill, we're going to be subtracting with negative numbers. Now we've already seen that if we subtract a number, we're going to be moving to the left of our scale because the number is getting smaller, moving either towards 0 or going further below 0. So if we start with the number 5 and we want to subtract 2, we're going to move 2 spaces to the left. 1, 2, giving us an answer of 3. But what happens if we're trying to take away a negative number? If we were adding a negative number, it would move towards the negative numbers. But taking away a negative number changes the direction. We move in the opposite way that we would normally. So if we start with our number 5 again, and this time I want to take away a negative 2. Well, take away 2 move to the left, so taking away a negative 2 is going to move to the right. And this gives us an answer of 7. Well, what's another way of writing this? 5, 2 equals 7. Well, in this case, we're adding the 2 numbers together. So 2 negative numbers next to each other, 2 negative symbols, will become an add sign. Does this always work? Let's just check it out. -3 take away -5. If you'd like to pause the video now and have a go at this, please do. Our starting position is -3. So we're 3 numbers below 0. If we want to take away 5, we would move to the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that would give us an answer of -8. But we're going to take away a -5, which changes the direction, which means the number is going to get bigger. So we move 5 places to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, according to our number line, that would give us an answer of 2. Is that then the same thing as saying -3 add 5? Does that still give us an answer of 2? Well, we know that adding numbers moves to the right as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's exactly the same question and gives us the answer 2. Okay, let's see how well you understood this. Our challenge for this lesson is as follows. Mr. and Mrs. Smith had £18 in their bank account. At the end of the month, they will have to pay 3 bills. Their telephone bill was £6, their gas bill was £5, and their electricity bill was £9. How much debt were Mr. and Mrs. Smith in? Bear in mind that a debt is like adding a negative number onto their balance. Post your answers in the comments section below, and do remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitter, and message me with any questions you might have about this or any other videos, and any requests you might like for future videos.